Hi guys. So today's video is kind of a special one. It doubles as both a celebration of my 2-year anniversary on YouTube and celebrating 50,000 subscribers. And yes, I know that if you look it up, it'll say my account is actually 17 years old, but it's a very old YouTube account, and I only uploaded my very first video 2 years ago, so I do count March 26th as my official anniversary date. This video might be going up a few days later though. I don't know, it's kind of a weird work week. Also, I did get a haircut. I thought I would get it shorter than normal just to give it time to grow into how I like it, but I might have gone a little too short in case you were wondering why I look like Courtney Cox in Scream 3. But I'll trust the process, I guess. But yeah, oh my god, 50,000 subscribers. I'm so incredibly happy and grateful to be where I am right now. And I'll gush more about that towards the end of the video because I do have an actual video topic today, which is of course unpopular opinions over dolls. And yeah, I know reacting to unpopular opinions or hot takes is not the most original video idea in the world, kind of a low-hanging fruit as far as content goes. But for my anniversary celebration video, I wanted something that would let me be more conversational, I guess, rather than informational, if that makes sense. Which, if that's not your thing, the more talky, minimal editing videos, I understand. I'm still so happy to have you, and I will see you on the next one. Also, I still love these types of videos. I could see one pop up in my feed of, like, reacting to your unpopular drywall opinions, and I'll be like, oh my god, I need to see what's heating up in the Home Depot community. So I guess it was inevitable I would eventually make one of these of my own. So I reached out to Twitter and YouTube, and I asked you guys to send some unpopular opinions my way, and oh my god, did you guys deliver with almost 500 responses? So obviously, unfortunately, I cannot include them all. I did go through and handpick some that I thought would be fun to talk about, and others I just kind of picked randomly. These are anonymous, but if your opinion appears here in the video, well, first of all, thank you. But also, there's a chance I might disagree with it, which you probably knew before sending it in. But I just want to say, for clarity's sake, that it's fine. As some people seem to think that just because I create content, I expect the entire world to agree with everything I think or say, and that's just not true. I will never ever tell you how to think or how to feel. That's just not why I make videos. Also, I am not the arbiter of taste levels here. Like, one of my favorite movies is the live-action Dead or Alive film. My opinions are not always to be trusted. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into it. Lowly Rock deserved a fashion doll line. Yes. That's it. That's the statement. Not an unpopular opinion at all, I have to admit, but it still needs to be said. Which, by the way, did you guys hear Season 3 was recently confirmed? And I know they said it'll be a few years before we see anything, but I am over the moon. Novi Stars is overrated as hell, I'm sorry. Yeah, they're cute, but like, y'all hyped them up way too much just because they didn't sell well. This is a juicy one that I kind of agree with. I would not have phrased it quite as aggressively, but some of you probably noticed that I don't really ever talk about Novi Stars, even though they're probably one of the most popular and sought after discontinued lines. And it's just because I personally never really saw the appeal of them. And not to say they're bad, like, I've definitely grown to appreciate them more in recent years. But even when they were back on shelves, I guess it's weird, but they never really read as fashion dolls to me. Like, even now, I tend to think of them more as figurines or statuettes, really beautifully and creatively designed, but they just never really struck my specific interests. And they're just so incredibly expensive to acquire that I would rather just spend that energy and money on other things. I don't really like glitter lips on dolls for makeup. I agree. Well, sometimes it can look good, but most of the time they look like they just went to town on a bag of powdered donuts. Rainbow High normalized weird non-Barbie scale fashion dolls and made it hard for kids to play with different types of dolls together. This is an interesting one. I wouldn't say that Rainbow High really normalized that. There's been a lot of pretty popular dolls who are out of scale with Barbie, Bratz, namely. Also, why does Barbie have to be the standard anyways? You know, is it just because she's the most common? And I'm not actually sure how much of an issue that is for children. Like, when I was a child, I kept my different types of dolls separate on purpose. Like, all my Polly Pockets stayed together and all my Barbie stuff stayed together. Unless you mean, like, one kid has a Barbie, one kid has a Rainbow High, and that means they can't play together. But I feel like for kids and their imaginations, that is such an incredibly easy barrier to overcome. Like, I never had Bratz dolls as a kid, but I recall having friends that did, and my Barbies and their Bratz lived in perfect harmony. Now, as harmonious as our 12-act murder mysteries soap operas got, but you get the picture. So I'm not saying that your opinion is invalid, I don't really understand it, I guess. Laguna looks better in pink than she ever did in blue. It really isn't as big of a deal as people make it seem. I mean, have you seen her G1 stock photos? Girl is literally gray. This is such a weirdly contentious issue, but I actually agree. And I'm saying this as someone who was a huge fan of Laguna in G1. She was one of my favorite characters. And I still love Laguna's G1 design and a lot of her dolls. But something about her being pink, and maybe it's weird to say, but she actually just looks so much more like a sea creature to me. And I understand that's probably not why they made the change. Like, it probably just came down to focus testing and trying to balance the colors of the main group. But I do think it works for G3 Laguna. And I think her also having such a different design helps me see her as entirely separate from G1 Laguna. Because I do love them both, but they are practically two completely different characters. So, yes, all that to say, I am pro Pink Laguna. The new Gem in the Holograms franchise deserve a new Playline level doll line and series. I think it would do extremely well. I think I agree. I don't know I would trust Hasbro with it, though. And I think they would need to approach it very carefully. Like, don't modernize Gem. Gem simply belongs in the 80s. She has no business existing in modern times. The IDW comics were a good effort, but it just solidified that fact for me. Gem needs to be set in the 80s or it's just not gonna feel right. But then, realistically, how well is a modern day doll line that's set in the 80s going to sell? Will it have a chance of connecting to kids? Are they going to have to rely solely on nostalgia from adults? It kind of seems like a recipe for disaster the more I think about it. So I think, best case scenario, Hasbro makes reproductions of the Gem dolls, including dolls that never actually got released, like the Stingers or Graphics. That could double as targeting adult collectors and also introducing a new generation to the franchise. Put HD versions of the songs onto streaming, and the cartoon, honestly, it can remain untouched. It's perfect the way it is. The BJD community is incredibly toxic and insufferable. I don't want to say I agree, because I don't want to generalize an entire community, and there's definitely some overlap between BJD collectors and fashion doll collectors, but I honestly have not had a single positive experience with the BJD community at large. I get the impression they really look down on me for being focused mainly on fashion dolls, and they've been incredibly patronizing and, literally treat me like I'm stupid. And I just avoid talking about them, because even a passing mention of ball-jointed dolls gets a lot of people in my comments, incredibly angry, just foaming at the mouth, because I had the gall, the nerve to mention a BJD in the same breath as a fashion doll. Don't you know they're not even comparable? So yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of BJD collectors who are lovely and wonderful, and I know there's lots who collect fashion dolls too, but I personally don't have a huge interest in BJDs, and unfortunately, My experience with them has been colored by some really awful people. I love the LOL OMG boy dolls. They are super cute. Agreed. Fully agreed. I don't think this is an unpopular opinion, because even among people, like myself, who tend to not care for boy dolls, we do really appreciate the LOL OMG boys. They just understand the assignment. They know that just because a doll is a boy, that doesn't mean that you have to make them less visually interesting or less designed. You don't even have to make them overtly masculine. So that's why I love the OMG boys. Barbie started getting worse in 2010. Obviously, some dolls are fine, but there's a lot of bad ones, especially present-day Barbies. I hate them. A counterpoint, Life in the Dream House. Checkmate. Oh, also, So in Style, that was around that time too. I can see that you're not entirely wrong, though. I'm just being pedantic. I think what we consider, like, modern Barbie and everything that's wrong with her now can be traced more to around, like, 2014-ish. Completionism is just another form of overconsumption. In a lot of cases, it's just wasteful and not cute. Sorry. I sort of agree. I make it clear that, like, I'm not a completionist, and I'm actually pretty picky about which dolls I buy. My goal is not to have, like, a huge collection, but rather to just be surrounded by specific dolls and things that I really like. And for some people, that does mean completing and collecting everything in a line. That's what makes them happy. And as long as that's, like, financially feasible for you, that's fine. But I do see a lot of people who just literally make themselves miserable buying dolls they don't even want just for the sake of completionism. And it's like, is the point of a hobby not to enjoy it, to relieve stress rather than be a source of it? Whatever happened to having fun, right? And it's not like I can judge or look down on them, because at the end of the day, we're all engaging with consumerism in some fashion. But I agree, it does make me feel some type of way to see people act like they have no choice in the matter, like they're being forced to spend money on things they don't really care about, when you can just not do that and buy things you actually like. But I don't know, everyone has their reasons. I can't really pretend to know what goes on in their lives. Ever After High doll faces are ugly in the most disappointing way. I think the outfits are done wonderfully, but then you get to the faces, they're uncanny to me, lol. This also isn't like a particularly unpopular opinion, but I wanted to talk about it because for a very long time, I didn't know it was a common sentiment. Like, I've always loved Ever After High. I know it has its issues, but I collected it from inception to its discontinuation alongside Monster High, so they hold a special place in my heart. And I guess I was just in my little bubble because I thought the dolls were pretty. I liked the faces. I didn't have a huge frame of reference because I really only collected Monster High 2. So I thought they were pretty. Well, not the weird smiling reboot faces, but that's a different conversation. Anyways, I started using Twitter and engaging with the larger doll community, and I learned very quickly Ever After High was not very popular. People talked about these dolls like they were the most putrid, most disgusting, flat-faced, ugly Persian cat-looking dolls that ever existed. And I was like, oh my god, like my world shattered. But again, maybe it does come down to my own questionable tastes. I mean, I think the Diva Stars faces are really cute too. And trust me, I know how unpopular of an opinion that is. Bratz dolls are overrated and are only popular due to the oversaturation of millennial nostalgia in the market. Barbie supremacy. See, it's interesting you say that because I don't really have a lot of nostalgia for Bratz. I didn't have any as a kid. I was aware of them, and I did kind of want some, but they were absolutely not like a core part of my childhood. They're really only something I got into as an adult. I don't disagree that a lot of their popularity currently is due to other people's nostalgia, though, but I don't think that's a bad thing either. I think Bratz has firmly cemented themselves as icons in the doll world. They've done so much for the industry, and if it takes appealing to nostalgia and producing a cringy Hot Topic merchandise to stay alive and pursue future projects, sure, I think they've earned the right to do that. In the early 2000s Polly Pocket films, Beth and her clique were designed way more distinctly and were prettier than Polly and her band. It's actually so weird that you sent this in, because I was literally just thinking about the Polly Pocket movies. I need to do a video over them someday. But no, you're absolutely right. Beth, Evie, and Tori are iconic, and no matter what the movie would have us believe, completely outsold Polly and her friends. Especially in the Lunar Eclipse movie. They're like barely in it, but they look amazing. Not all dolls need articulation, plus Made to Move is ugly. I agree. I like articulation. I think it can add a lot of value and potential to a doll, but I don't think it necessarily always needs to be a priority. And I cannot stand the Barbie Made to Move body. Like, I don't understand the obsession with it. I think it looks so unattractive. I think it looks incredibly unappealing. I think the way the joints look when they're bent is so ugly. It's so unphotogenic. And because the Made to Move body killed my grandma, okay? Now, I know some people really love the Made to Move body, sometimes to concerning degrees. So I try not to be too vocal about how much I dislike it. And I'm sure it's really fun for kids, but for me, like, I don't need a diorama of all my dolls in various yoga poses, so I just really don't have any use for it. The Mattel Winx dolls are not worth the hype. They're kind of ugly, I fear. Ooh, this is a controversial one, and I respect your opinion, but I do politely disagree. I love the Mattel Winx dolls, and I can admit part of that is nostalgia. They're the Winx dolls I grew up with, so it makes sense I'd be partial to them. You know, on second thought, I changed my mind. You're right. The Mattel Winx dolls are so ugly, hideous even. I don't know why anyone would want them. No one should want them. You should actually all sell yours right now on eBay for extremely low prices, because no one should buy them on account of being so ugly and undesirable. Please. We need more boy dolls. Just like the world isn't filled with white skinny people, boys also exist. I don't disagree with this sentiment, but I think the way you phrase this is kind of funny. As if a boy can't be a white skinny person. I like Violet Willow. Me too. And I know it's rough out here for us Violet fans, but you have to speak your truth. We're in this together. The Monster High Fright song is a low-key bop. Low-key? It's literally one of the greatest musical achievements of our generation. Project MC² was criminally underrated. Some of the designs might have been cringy and whatnot, but the clothes were creative and the science experiments were cool. I agree. I love Project MC². I don't mind that the fashions were kind of cringy, because there's such a good encapsulation of fashion in that time period, which I find very charming. And I will say, I think the experiment side of the dolls could have used a lot more work. I didn't pay a lot of attention to it when they were on shelves, but now that I've bought a few as an adult, I've noticed they were literally just like, not clear at all what you're supposed to do with the stuff they came with. Like, they just literally hand you a syringe or something, and they're like, go make a volcano. Good luck. Oh, this one's kind of long. The first few lines of Rainbow High were absolutely butt ugly. Their oddly shiny skin and their giant bug-eyed vacant stares make them look so uncanny and terrible. Plus, the fashion, while revolutionary in its design and composition, didn't necessarily flatter them much. At the latter end of their releases, including Shadow High, where their eyes are more proportionate and their skin has a matte finish, makes them truly beautiful dolls. The fashion is also improved as well, as it doesn't seem like it's directly ripping off famous fashion brands. I don't know that I would call them butt ugly necessarily, but I do agree that the first wave of Rainbow High dolls look a little rough compared to how they do now, but I do appreciate them for what they are. I appreciate them from afar, in storage and not on display in my room, but I appreciate them nonetheless. Because it's kind of fun, in retrospect, to just go through each wave of Rainbow High And look at all the little ways it changed and improved from line to line. Because the Rainbow High that we have now and the Rainbow High that we had when it first came out are like two completely different lines, and it's a very fascinating evolution to me. It's an actual joke how Monster High dolls are priced in the secondhand market. When I was new to collecting, I seriously overpaid for my dolls because everyone around me convinced me they were worth that much. No, because Monster High G1 dolls specifically just have no business being as expensive as they are on the secondhand market, which a lot of dolls are priced way too high on eBay, but Monster High specifically, those dolls have not stood the test of time. And I say this with nothing but love in my heart as an avid Monster High fan, but Mattel did not build those dolls to last. And even dolls that are kept perfectly preserved in the box, a lot of the time just look 2 strong taps away from completely disintegrating into glue-flavored dust. So there is no reason for them being sold for like 3 or 4 times their original retail price. I honestly don't care how quote-unquote rare they are. The blank high trend is awful, and I'd rather just have dolls that are ambiguously young adults than a bunch of teenagers. A line can be themed without that theme needing to be tied to a high school. I don't think it's a bad thing to have a bunch of doll lines set in high school, but I do agree it would be nice to have more adult dolls on the market. And I'm not even saying that as someone who is an adult, but I remember even as a kid, I loved when dolls or cartoons had adult characters. I thought they were so cool. Like, I specifically remember the Winx Club girls aging up to be adults, the Totally Spies girls going to college. Oh, my scene, I know officially they were supposed to be teenagers, but those girls were at the club every night and going to Jamaica on their own. You literally can't convince me they were in high school, but yeah, I loved seeing things like that, and speaking just from a storyline perspective, it opens up a lot more possibilities than just a high school. People need to stop getting riled up over budget dolls. It can sometimes feel really classist. Like, kids from poor families and lower income collectors deserve good dolls too. If you don't like the Rainbow High budget dolls, I think they're pretty cute, the ones I've seen. Just don't buy them. I do have mixed feelings about this one, because I agree, budget dolls aren't a bad thing. However, I don't think being a budget doll means a doll is, like, completely exempt from criticism. Like, being at a lower price point doesn't mean that it should be just a worse version of an existing doll, like the Rainbow High budget dolls kind of are. Speaking as someone who grew up pretty low income, that just sounds terribly alienating. Lower income people and children also deserve dolls that have real thought and effort put into them. Collectors need to stop complaining about the quality, price of Monster High collector dolls. They don't need to buy them, and yet they continue to do so after complaining online. Just be grateful Monster High still exists. Apologies, but I do strongly disagree with this one, because when it comes to Playline, yeah, there is a certain line where complaints from adult collectors can cross over to a sense of entitlement almost. But when it comes to collector dolls, we're the target audience here. We get to complain and cry and rave all we want. Because let's be honest, we don't have to be grateful for anything. I'm not gonna say thank you to Mattel for charging me $80 and then waiting 8 months with no communication to ship me something I already paid for. It's not a gift, it's a transaction. And yeah, I understand the complaints sometimes are unfair and they can get annoying when it's the same thing over and over. But I'm never gonna tell someone to just be grateful that a company allowed them to purchase their product. No. I think we need more furry fashion dolls. I want to see more LPS-style fashion dolls. I feel like a furry doll line would allow for a lot of creativity and won't constantly get these dolls are giving girls body image issues complaint because they're not human. I think you're a little optimistic about them solving the body issue debate because Equestria Girls and Pinky Cooper got very similar criticisms. But otherwise, I do agree completely. I think there's a good opening for more anthropomorphic dolls on the market. I guess they're just kind of a hard sell, though. The 2015 Bratz and Monster High G2 was not as bad as some people make them out to be. I agree, sort of. 2015 Bratz, I definitely agree with. I think a lot of people have come around to appreciating them more, but they really weren't that terrible. Like, you can say you dislike the faces or the proportions, and that's perfectly valid. Or you can say they don't really feel like Bratz, which is also pretty understandable. But the dolls themselves, they were not bad quality or poorly designed or anything like that. The marketing was a little strange, but the dolls, I actually did quite like a lot of them. Now, for Monster High G2, I kind of think it was as bad as people make it out to be. It wasn't all bad, but it was pretty bad. Because a lot of what people try to say are the good G2 lines were actually G1 lines that were repurposed for G2. And once we get to the pure G2 lines, like all the weird random little siblings and everything, no, I wasn't here for it. I don't think children should play with fashion dolls. It's just another medium for body dysmorphia in children that grows with them. Strong disagree. I think fashion dolls are incredibly wonderful toys for children, and they have a lot of developmental benefits. Not to mention exploring interests in storytelling, fashion, social skills, etc. I'm curious if you hold this same opinion for action figures, and how far that extends. Like, should children not play with any toy that resembles a human? I really think you need to unpack this thought process, honestly. I'm perfectly fine with the Bratz reproduction dolls. I understand those who want a new line, but as someone who doesn't have many of the originals, I would much rather have more old dolls. See, I'm pretty in favor of wanting original dolls rather than repros, but that said, I know as soon as they start reproducing more dolls that I actually care about, I'll be switching up so fast. Like, give me Tokyo Go-Go, Princess, Nighty Night, and I will be first in line asking for more repros, all the repros. About Monster High specifically, Rebecca is my favorite character in Monster High, but I hate most of her dolls. The red lipstick they kept giving her just didn't look good on her at all, and never even matched her outfits. Her base doll is the only doll of hers that I absolutely love. Not sure how unpopular this is. I agree, I've never really liked Rebecca's dolls, because she was supposed to be a steampunk character, and they never really took it far enough for me. And her color schemes were always a little weird to me too. Especially her Comic-Con exclusive doll. I do not understand the hype for that doll at all. She is actually, hands down, one of the ugliest Monster High dolls to me. I think she's just incredibly unfortunate looking. Okay, last one. I think all the dolls should kiss and be gay. Controversial, but brave. And that's all I collected for this video. I probably could have found a few more, but I do feel like I've been talking for like literally forever. And I wanted to leave some time at the end of this video to just say a huge thank you for 50,000 subscribers and 2 incredible years on YouTube. When I first started YouTube, I gave myself a really arbitrary number of subscribers that I wanted. It was 5,000. I told myself that if I got 5,000 subs, I could then tell myself essentially, I made it. I never, like in my wildest dreams, imagined I would get more than that. Because the fashion doll community it's not incredibly small, but it's niche. And for that reason, I just didn't expect to get a lot of attention on my videos. And now, here I am, 10 times that number that I assigned to myself. And I'm just so incredibly grateful for each and every one of you. And I know it's easy to just say that, but I really do mean it. The attention, it is a little overwhelming. I'm still getting used to it. But it's just been an incredibly validating experience. I'm not a very confident person. I've never been. I've always had extreme anxiety ever since I was a child, and that's prevented me from making a lot of friends or being open about my interests But I get all these wonderful comments about my voice, my mannerisms, my hobbies, all things that I spent basically my entire life being ashamed of. Because I'm sure you can only imagine what it was like to grow up being like me with my interests. It was unfortunately not very well received. Like, my family learned of my channel, and when I saw them recently, there were a ton of comments like, wow, I had no idea you could talk so much. I never heard you speak so much. Because I truly spent most of my life so quiet and so withdrawn and afraid to be myself. But now I can be myself unapologetically to an entire audience, and I can't even articulate how happy I am for that. And the best part of this is that I know for certain there's at least 50,000 people out there who, even if they're not collectors, they have some passing interest in dolls, or like they like to hear about them. And I get messages from so many people who tell me I help them feel more validated or seen or confident in their hobbies, but you guys are also doing the exact same thing for me. And it's just so surreal because, like, now when people talk about doll channels and they talk about channels that I watched and followed and I looked up to, now my name is there too. I'm included in that. And I don't want it to sound like I'm doing this completely for views or recognition, but being able to find recognition and find success by sharing my hobbies and doing something I truly, really love doing has been such an incredible experience. And I have you guys to thank for that. So again, thank you so much for every view, for every comment, for everything. Whew. Okay. That is enough vulnerability for today. And I'm a Virgo, so you know that wasn't easy. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I don't know if I'll do a part 2. It was definitely fun reading everyone's submissions, but I feel bad that I could only include such a small percentage of them. I'll probably do something less broad than unpopular opinions, maybe. We'll see. But a big thank you to everyone who submitted something. If you have an unpopular opinion you want to publicly share with the world, feel free to comment it down below. If you agreed or disagreed with anything said here, let me know. Fight it out in the comments. Civilly though, be civil. You know, I really need a new sign-off. Subscribe for any future Fashion Doll content was never something intended to be permanent. Like, that was always a placeholder for when I thought of something more personal, but I never did. And then 2 years ago. So I should probably think of something soon. Anyways, do be sure to like and subscribe for any future Fashion Doll content. Thank you.